way back. As far as the programs go for the elementary, the middle, and the high school, they've added on a tremendous amount of cultural programs. English is a second language in different levels of the courses over the years. Added some diverse courses to the curriculum in the language area. But from the pre-K point of view, if we don't charge tuition for that, it's not an economic reality. And we have to talk here in realities. And it just is.
Thank you, Mr. McFarland. Mr. DeBona.
Thank you. Being a part of the school committee for the last 2 years, I've witnessed the work that we do in these schools, especially North Quincy High School right here. The Junior Air Force ROTC program has 170 kids involved in it. About 90% of those kids are Asian. They're very involved. That's a good 7% of the school is involved in this program. It's very vital. It's important. Also, the ELL, English Language Learners, getting the Asian kids the amount of English to excel in these classrooms. 2014, North Quincy was number 10 in the state. Why? Because all the Asian kids in this school. We brought the test scores up. All they need to do is make sure they get English as their second language, and getting that down pat, and the Asian students just excel. Also, it's all about state funding. They're always cutting back on state funding all the time. I'm a fiscal conservative. What I'm going to do on the council is I'm going to make sure that we have enough surplus of funding that we can keep in these schools. Over the last 2 years, we've had $3.6 million in the schools, $3 million in the school, and this last year it's been $1.5 million. Every year we should probably have around $3 million to be in these schools every year. And that's how we're going to do it at the council level. And that's where I think I'm going to be a nice transition into it from the school committee, having that experience. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think these are really thoughtful answers. On behalf of the audience, I just want to tell you we do appreciate your input. We're going to move to a different topic. Asian entrepreneurs, among others, are investing in Quincy and opening a wide range of businesses. What plans or ideas do you have to strengthen the investments being made to revitalize the city as a shopping, recreation, and entertainment destination? I'm going to start with Ms. Lang.
Sure. Shazi, thank you for asking that question. I feel very strongly about the development that's happening in our city right now. I go back to what I said earlier, and that the start that we've gotten here really has allowed our amazing opportunities, and it's because we've been very careful to make sure that anything that we do and build up in our restaurant group is amenable to the people in the city. Very recently, we opened up a restaurant out in Somerville that opened in November. We started going out to the community and talking to them in January of that year. As an at-large councillor, I want to make sure that any development that comes into our city follows those same guidelines. People that want to open up restaurants, retail, whatever it may be, they need to start very early on, come and be a part of the community, engage the people that live in the area, and make sure it's a good fit for both the business owners and the residents of the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McCarthy.
Thank you. First of all, I think we get caught up a lot talking about the downtown. And if you work your way back towards Wollaston and North Quincy, the Asian community, especially at North Quincy at the corner of Hancock and Billings, has done a tremendous job. It's vibrant, it's alive, it's everything we want in the downtown. It's in North Quincy and it's Wollaston now. The development doesn't have to stop there. I mean, West Quincy, Squanah, Marina Bay, we have so much potential in the city of Quincy. And you take what is happening right here in Wollaston and North Quincy, and you see the vibrancy that's been going on and the success of not just restaurants, stores, and other venues that are out there. And it's something I think we can work with in a large capacity across the city. All the developers would have to follow those guidelines that Nina spoke about. You'd have to stay and make sure that we didn't overgrow the city of Quincy. A lot of people are concerned sometimes when we talk about 15-story buildings in downtown and other items, and I know the dollar sign always dictates a lot of things. But we have to be careful that we keep Quincy the way it is, keep it vibrant, and keep it the way, it's almost a city with a town atmosphere across the board. And you want to make sure you keep that in regards to any type of development. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. Michael McFarland, please.
As someone who has worked in Wollaston Center for about 35 years, I have seen dramatic changes to the area. A year ago, myself with Councilor Kirsten Hughes sponsored a study that was by the Metropolitan Area Planning Council as to how we could grow Wollaston Center, how we could take the existing conditions of parking and so forth and what's there and grow that. In the meantime, with that in Wollaston Center, as the residents have moved in, we've opened up a plethora of new restaurants and service businesses that are now accommodating the Asian community. Same as in North Quincy, and I won't mention any restaurant names, but my wife and I can frequently be found on a Friday or Saturday night in North Quincy having supper. Why? Because the food's delicious, and it's different, and it's something that we're not used to. The Quincy Chamber of Commerce has really gone out of its way to bring in Asian directors and also Asian businesses into the fold. So we have to continue as a city to work together as we evolve. And the programs that are available out there, whether it's low-cost loans or whatever, between working through the banks or working with the Chamber of Commerce to get a loan for a business that might not be something that would be bank financeable, it's happening and it happens all the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Noel DeBona.
Thank you. You know, I'll be very honest with you. Best sushi in town is Fuji, spicy tuna. Give you a little prop there, Jimmy. I frequent that place, not lately, but I'm telling you, the restaurants that the Liang Group has done a tremendous job throughout the city, going into Somerville as well. Understanding the culture of an Asian culture, I can understand that. My mother's Asian, she's Thai. I grew up in an Asian background, rice. So I understand what it means to be American, Italian-American, Thai, kind of both sides of the coin here. So I understand what's important to also balance out the city and making sure that in traffic concerns that it's in the right areas. Our businesses need to strive as we move forward into the city. Walking and knocking on doors throughout the city, being involved in the school committee, I have seen a tremendous influx of Asians. And I look at, and I can relate to that. It's important that we move forward and make this opportunity for everyone. And not only is it downtown development, we're also looking into the Wollaston Center that is Brisbane do. We have to revitalize all sections of the city. It's going to complement the downtown. Me being a councilor at large from the school committee, being an Italian, Asian American as well, I think it's a great transition. I ask for your vote on November 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe Finn. And the question, just to remind everybody, is what are we going to do to maintain and grow on the city as a destination?
Again, I don't believe in random development. The city of Quincy, for the past 40 years or so, have had plans that have sat and collected dust. No one has tried to implement them. The past two mayors, Mayor Phelan and Mayor Koch, both deserve credit because they have actually tried to do a rational, planned approach to the development of our city. And it's very important to understand that in order to build these businesses, you need markets. You need people who are going to utilize those businesses. And so the whole concept of mixed-use development that we forwarded in Quincy after countless charrettes and community meetings, gathering, is very important. And it's also built around the concept of smart growth. Quincy is well located because of public transportation to not only grow, but to thrive. And again, a lot of this is going to be based on the ability to draw people in, both on a residential side, as well as then offering them the types of services and retail they desire. Thank you.
Thanks. We're running into time, so this may be our last question. And it does follow, Mr. Finn, a point you raised in terms of development, and that is transportation. Do you have any ideas on how the city could enhance public transportation, traffic flows, to support both residential and economic and job growth and business development? Mr. McCarthy, you're up first.
Thank you. Quincy is a busy place, and transportation is right at the forefront. With our connection to the MBTA, and Quincy as a primary cut-through for a lot of folks, it makes it very busy out there. I think what's going on in the city now in regards to infrastructure, and an example is the North Quincy High intersection out here, is vastly improved. I think we have to look at parts of the city, roadways, things have changed over the course of the next several years, and enhance as much as possible in regards to transportation by car, or by bike, or by motorcycle. The MBTA, we know it's had its problems. We know we're going to be looking at a new MBTA station down the road at Quincy that we could probably design a little more user-friendly for both the passengers that ride the T, and also develop a T station that doesn't draw the folks that usually draw to the T station that sometimes are unwarranted there. But I think we stay at it and we work at the infrastructure as we have been throughout the city. I don't think that additional roadways are going to be added. We've added the new Hannon Parkway. We're going to have to look at things harder though and keep an eye on development, because as folks come in and it grows, more people come in and there's more transportation.
Thank you. Mr. McFarland.
Thank you. If we don't continue to grow businesses and grow commercial areas in the city, the residential taxpayer will suffer. We won't have the programs in schools, we won't have the police and fire that we need. We've been working with the MBTA, we have 4 stations, and when it runs good, it runs great. When it runs terrible, it runs terrible. And that was a point that was proven last year during the snowstorm. And I have to really applaud the city administration at that point in time in getting the streets clean, because Quincy is not only, you know, a place where the 95,000 people around here get around, but it's also people from the lower South Shore come through here because the T wasn't working for them either. So what do they have to do? They have to drive through Quincy to get to Boston. We have spent numerous dollars opening up the areas of Crown Colony with the flyover up there to help traffic in and out of the Crown Colony Park. Bergen Parkway now produces to get the traffic from the expressway at 93 all the way down to the State Street South area. The Hannon Parkway connects Bergen Parkway with Southern Artery, which brings us down into the lower South Shore and also to the beaches of Boston. So we need to continue and to improve upon those things. And we have to ask people, tell people, you know, that we have to find an incentive for them not to drive. And the way we can do that is by better bus transportation to take them to the connecting routes.
Thank you. Mr. DeBona.
Thank you. You know, the MBTA, we have 4 train stations here in the city of Quincy. Quincy Adams, Quincy Center, Wallaston, and North Quincy. We have 4 major on the Red Line. You know, in an Asian culture, my uncle lives in Japan. For the last 20 years, he teaches English to Japanese people, and he doesn't have a vehicle. He doesn't have a car. The train station is where he gets his transportation. Here in the city of Quincy, a lot of Asians don't have a vehicle. They rely basically on the MBTA, the bus routes, the trains to get around into the city. Another vital part is going to be our bicycling, getting the correct bike routes into the city before we start infrastructuring our roadways, because we can't kind of go backwards sometimes. We kind of have to foresee that. Also, we have to consider the fact of a ferry system, which we don't have right now. I've talked to many people in the Squantum area that are looking for a ferry to go into Longworth, Wordsworth, and that will give a nice transit into the Boston area, very, very vital. We don't have one for the Logan Express ferry system that's out by the Fall River Bridge. that's non-existing as well. So we're looking at other avenues besides driving a vehicle. Bikes, ferries, buses, trains, and we don't have a lot here, but even little scooters and motorbikes as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Finn?
I think that Mr. DeBona actually makes an excellent point when he focuses on talking about alternative forms of transportation that are important and are also more environmentally sound. The Planning and Community Development Department has already started to try to integrate that within the planning of city areas and traffic areas within the city of Quincy. But the truth is, from my perspective as well, is that we have 200 miles of pavement in the city of Quincy, and our infrastructure, quite honestly, is tired and it's worn. And along with that is the signaling, the traffic signaling, that in my mind creates significant issues. I think we need to audit that citywide and try to create better patterns and flow of traffic throughout the city. It's one of the reasons there's some concern with the development recently with the traffic flow that it creates specifically related to that area. I also think that it's again going to be critical as we move forward to see it in a holistic way and try to again figure out how we can best invest in that infrastructure moving forward.
Thank you. Ms. Lang?
So in going door to door, speaking with neighbors across our entire city, I'm finding that when someone talks about traffic, it encompasses three things. One is the parking, one is the congestion, and one is the speeding. Right now, what I'd like to do is commend the city of Quincy for taking traffic surveys and implementing some changes that can alleviate the traffic along the way. They've also implemented some parking restrictions on residential streets to make sure that parking isn't an issue for residents day in and day out. The really important thing I want to get across here is that the residents that deal with this 24/7 on a daily basis have some really good ideas on how we can fix the problem. Putting up some more speed traps, making sure to put up some signs, enforcement of those signs. As a councilor at large, I want to speak to the residents in these neighborhoods that are being affected by these problems on a daily basis. Again, work with the city on the traffic surveys and put those two solutions together to come up with a more long-term, sustainable solution. Thank you.
Thanks. Now we're going to offer each of our candidates 30 seconds to give you their final message on why they're looking for your vote on November 3rd. We're going to begin with Mr. McFarland.